Converting from one set of units to another can be very tricky depending on how complex the units are. I'm going to show you a technique that your book uses and most chemistry and physics books use now to change from any units to any other units. I strongly suggest that you adopt the technique since your book uses it throughout from chapter 2 all the way to chapter 22, but also it will help you later in physics as well. Now I realize this first problem I'm going to do is way too easy, but I'm more interested in showing you the technique than just getting the answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert 4 feet into inches. I'm starting off with my measurement 4 feet, and I'm making what I call a dimensional analysis grid. It's basically a line for fractions where you have numerators and denominators. And so my original measurement is going in the upper left-hand corner for 4 feet. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll also write at the end what units I want to end up with. In this case, I want to change 4 feet to inches. Now, probably everyone in here knows that the answer is 48 inches. But the way that you can do this in terms of dimensional analysis is by using a conversion factor. And a conversion factor is any factor that you want to use, but it has to be a true fact. And essentially you're putting it as a fraction so that when the units multiply together, something will cancel. So in this case, I know that there are 12 inches in every 1 foot. And by multiplying the fraction 4 feet by 12 inches is 1 foot, the most important thing to realize is the units of feet will now cancel out. And my answer will be 4 times 12, which would be 48. And the units, which is what I'm really concerned about, are inches. Now, getting these conversion factors and a series of conversion factors so that the units will cancel out is essentially the main part of dimensional analysis. And a lot of times it's almost idiot-proof. In this case, I've set this problem up again, but I used my conversion factor backwards. And you can see what's going to happen when you try to multiply 4 feet by 1 foot equals 12 inches. Obviously, when you multiply at the top, you're going to get 4 times 1. The number's 4, but who really cares? Because the units are just awful. Feet times feet would be feet squared over inches. I have no idea what that is. Feet squared over inches. It is not what my intent was, which was to convert 4 feet into inches. Now in this case, we're going to try to convert 55 miles into centimeters. So we're going from English unit, 55 miles, a unit of distance, into centimeters, metric unit of distance. Now down below, I have written down some facts, a couple of which I knew, and one of which I used the back of my book for. The very, very last page of my book has several conversion factors that are helpful to do all these problems. So my first task is to change or get rid of the units of miles. So I'm going to put 1 mile on the bottom and 5,280 feet on the top. Now that way, units of miles should cancel, and although I don't have my answer in terms of centimeters, I have changed it from miles to something else. And so my next step, I could probably put 1 foot on the bottom is equal to 12 inches. And again, by multiplying by this fraction, I can get rid of the units of feet, and now I'm in units of inches. And lastly, I can say that there are 2.54 centimeters in every inch. And again, when I multiply by this fraction, the units of inches will cancel, and the only dimension that I have left is centimeters, exactly what I want. And so now I just have to multiply 55 times 5,280 times 12 times 2.54, and that should tell me the number of centimeters. When you multiply that all on a calculator, you should get something like 8851392. And here's where significant figures comes into play. The original measurement that I have has 2 places of accuracy. Now my answer should only be as accurate as the measurement that I have. So therefore, this number of centimeters is an exaggeration of my accuracy. So I need to round off this answer, 88.51392, to 2 places of accuracy. And so I'm going to look at the first place and the second place. The digit behind is a 5, so I'm going to round up. So it should be 8900000. Hopefully I have the correct. So it's 8 million. 8,900,000 centimeters. The last conversion, I'm going to change a unit of speed, 22 miles per hour, into a unit of speed, inches per decade. Now, it doesn't really matter whether you start with the units of miles or whether you start with the units of hours. Either way, you're going to multiply by fractions, and multiplication, it's associative, so it doesn't matter what order you do it in. So I'm going to start with miles. I'm going to change 5280 feet equals 1 mile. That way, units of miles should cancel out. Then I'm going to say that there are 12 inches in a foot. So if I say 12 inches in every 1 foot, again, that should take care of my units of feet. And the units in the numerator anyway, right now, are inches. Exactly what I want. The denominator, though, is in terms of hours. So if I were to stop the problem right now, my answer would be in terms of inches per hour. To finish out the rest of the problem, we have to convert from hours to decades. So I use the conversion 24 hours in a day, so that units of hours would cancel out. Then there are about 365 days in a year, so days would cancel out. There are 100 years for every decade. To solve the problem, you would multiply the numerator, multiply the denominator, simplify, and then your units would be inches per decade. Also, since the original measurement has 2 places of accuracy, your answer should only have 2 places of accuracy. So my final answer is 1.2 times 10 to the 12th inches per decade. The last example of a conversion is one that is a cubic unit. In this case, we're doing cubic feet, and we're going to try to change to cubic centimeters. The same technique can be used for square units, cubic units, something raised to the 4th power or 5th power, it doesn't matter. The objective is still the same. We have to multiply by a fraction so that the units of cubic feet will cancel. On the bottom down here, I have a couple facts that I looked up in the back of our book. 12 inches equals a foot, and 2.54 centimeters equals an inch. Now, the way that I usually handle the cubic terms is I pretend for a second that this is not a cubic, but a regular old, just regular old feet, one-dimensional. And so if it was just 4 feet, I would, of course, say that there are 12 inches in a foot, and that will take care of the regular inch feet. And then I would say there's 2.54 centimeters equals an inch. Now, of course, that's pretending that this was not cubic. Since it is cubic, obviously, when you multiply by 12 inches equals a foot, the units of cubic feet and regular feet are not going to cancel. But mathematically, what we can do is we could take this whole fraction and cube it. Now, when we cube it, the important thing to realize is not only are you cubing the numbers, this would be 12 cubed, and this would be 1 foot cubed, but you're also cubing the units, which is what we really want. So at the bottom of this, the numerator would be just 12 cubed, inches cubed, but the denominator would be cubic feet, and then cubic feet and regular feet would cancel out. And obviously my dimensions right now after step number 1 would be just in terms of cubic inches. And then, of course, since this is cubic inches and we want to go to cubic centimeters, I can do the same exact thing to my second factor that I can cube that. And that way the top becomes 2.54 cubed centimeters cubed, and the bottom becomes inches cubed. And the fact that the bottom is inches cubed will allow me to cancel that out. Rounding my answer to 2 places of accuracy, I think that 4 cubic feet is going to be 110,000 cubic centimeters. To explain that cubic cancellation a second way, you can think of essentially cubing it by multiplying by a fraction, the same fraction 3 times. So if you took step 1, 4 cubic feet, and you want to change it to, in an attempt to get the cubic centimeters, you could multiply by 12 inches equals a foot, 12 inches equals a foot, 12 inches equals a foot. And if you do that 3 times, feet, feet, and feet on the bottom will become cubic feet, and that will cancel out cubic feet on the top. And then the units on the top would be inches by inches by inches, or cubic inches. And then the other thing you have to remember is you still have to multiply the numbers together. But this is just step 1. You can now change from cubic inches to cubic centimeters, again, by using the same factor 3 times.